Just when we thought we'd seen every creepy creature nature had to offer, scientists remind us to hold your microscope. Every year, new species are discovered, some adorable, some downright bizarre, and others absolutely nightmare-inducing. Brace yourself for these 20 terrifying, newly discovered species that left the world stunned. Number 20. Okalinus Sigorum. Back in 2020, deep in the forests of northern Vietnam, a team of scientists stumbled upon an extraordinary discovery. This is Okalinus Sigorum, a newly identified species of super shiny snake. The rare find belongs to a group that is often called odd-scaled snakes because of their unusual scale arrangement. Unlike most snakes, their small scales don't overlap, which means that there are patches of skin visible. This is an adaptation that may help them navigate their underground habitat. The species is also nearly blind. Their eyes lack the ability to perceive bright light, which is mostly because they spend their lives under leaf litter or soil. The discovery of this particular snake happened during a biodiversity survey in 2019. As researchers were exploring the Ha Giang province, the snake's iridescent, almost holographic scales shimmered in various shades of blue and green, making it as visually stunning as it is scientifically significant. The snake has also given scientists some new insights into the ancient origins of reptiles, and it seems that the species diverged a really long time ago, so it helps with piecing together the lineage of the different sorts of reptiles that we have today. Of course, like most rare creatures, the snake is also at high risk of extinction, mostly due to habitat loss in the small area that it can currently be found in. Number 19. The white-spotted pufferfish. Next up, we have a new species of pufferfish that was discovered in the seawaters off the coast of the Ryukyu Islands in Japan. The newly found fish has a brown head and body with white spots on its back. These fish have been observed making these sorts of round nests in the sand as a kind of mating ritual, but they are still pufferfish, so it's best to still give them a wide berth. Pufferfish are the second most poisonous vertebrate on the planet. Even in second place, though, these fish each contain enough deadly tetrodotoxin to kill 30 humans, so I reckon second place is basically irrelevant. Their name, the pufferfish, comes from the weird way in which they protect themselves from would-be predators in the wild. They can puff themselves up to make it extremely difficult for a predator to keep a hold of them or to even sink their teeth in. In reality, this defense mechanism probably saves the predator's life as often as it does the fish's, because just one nibble could kill. Although their reputation as a super deadly poisonous fish is extremely well known, there are still plenty of people out there who want to eat the thing. It's crazy, but it's true. In Japan, the fish is a delicacy, but it absolutely must be prepared by a highly skilled, certified person. You make one tiny wrong cut when preparing the fish, and whoever eats it is a goner. This is a serious business, and although there's approximately 1 death per year from ingesting this delicacy, these are almost always caused by people attempting to prepare the fish themselves, rather than to pay the high restaurant prices for an expert to do it properly. Number 18. The bone-eating worm. The Ostax worm is nicknamed the zombie worm, and it is a fairly creepy sort of creature. This is one of nature's weirdest recyclers, and these worms live on the bones of dead marine animals. They live deep below the surface and have been found at depths of 2,893 meters. This is where they can find the carcasses of dead whales whose bones they just love to devour. These worms will actually use their unique physiology to bore into the bone and reach the lipids that are inside. They feed on the collagen of the bones, and they make holes all throughout the skeletal structure and will also use those holes that they make to hide from potential predators that will also, as we've seen before, feed on the enormous carcass of a whale. They were first discovered back in 2002 in Monterey Bay, California. The bone-eating worm uses acid to bore into the bones and extract out all the nutrients along with the help of symbiotic bacteria in their root-like structures. Most bizarrely, they have neither mouths nor stomachs but rather rely entirely on bacterial partnerships for their survival. The females will dominate the ecosystem, attaching themselves to bones while hosting harems of microscopic males within their tubes. The males exist purely to fertilize the eggs, and this is a strategy which ensures the species thrives in deep-sea environments. Fossils would suggest that the worms have been around for millions of years and were even once found to be feeding on marine reptiles like dinosaurs during the age of when those big giants roamed the earth. Number 17. Litoria Pinocchio. The Pinocchio frog is a really fascinating amphibian native to the super-remote Foja Mountains of Papua, Indonesia. It was first discovered in 2008 during a Conservation International expedition. The frog gets its name, of course, from its distinctly long and pointy nose that is reminiscent of the fictional puppet. The nose is actually much more than just a curious physical trait, though. It does shift position, standing upright when the males call out and drooping when they are at rest. This mechanism may be linked to attracting a mate or something to do with figuring out different species in diverse rainforest ecosystems. The frog was first noticed by a scientist on an expedition in 2008, but it wasn't officially recognized and formally described until 2019, As part of the tree frog family, the Pinocchio frog has a mixture of green, brown, and yellow coloring and can be found mainly hanging out in the treetops in the dense forest. The region in which it lives is extremely remote, and it has been valued for its incredible biodiversity. In fact, studies of the area have revealed several other previously unknown and undocumented species. Because the region of rainforest is so remote, a lot of them have evolved separately from others on the planet, making it a unique and extremely important ecosystem. Number 16. The Dracula Tick. Ticks are not only a modern irritation. These bugs have been on Earth for longer than people. In fact, there's evidence that there were ticks doing their thing all the way back in the time of the dinosaurs. Recent research by scientists from Oxford University have discovered the remains of some ticks that had been preserved in amber, in a style reminiscent of that of the mosquito in Jurassic Park. There were 4 ticks that were discovered in total. One of them was still attached to a feather that appeared to have once belonged to a dinosaur from the Cretaceous period. Of the several ticks that were discovered, they found one was still engorged with blood, so this they gave the rather appropriate name of Dracula's terrible tick. These things were bigger and greedier than ticks that we have today, but it seems likely that they were filling up on blood of the much bigger and more greedy dinosaurs, so that also makes sense. There have not been any kind of obvious suggestions that anyone was planning a Jurassic-style resurrection, but then again, who really knows? Now it's time for today's topic. Just when we thought we knew all the creepy creatures out there, nature goes and says, hold your microscope. Scientists are still discovering new species every year, some cute, some bizarre, and others straight up terrifying. Get ready for these 20 terrifying, newly discovered species that shocked the world. In early June 2025, a woman living alone in a quiet neighborhood of Asheville, North Carolina began hearing strange scratching and thudding noises coming from above her bedroom ceiling. At first, she assumed it was a raccoon or possibly a squirrel. But when the sounds grew louder and more erratic over several nights, she decided to investigate. Climbing into the attic with a flashlight and phone in hand, she expected to find a nesting animal. Instead, she stumbled upon something no one can explain. Curled up near the insulation was a grotesque, partially decomposed creature unlike anything known to science. Roughly 4 feet in length, it had a segmented, armored tail, bat-like limbs, and a bulbous, fleshy mass covered in golden, egg-like spheres. Terrified, she fled and called local authorities. By the time wildlife experts arrived, the creature had decayed further, but the egg structures remained intact and warm. Samples were sent to a private lab and the attic was sealed off. Speculation exploded online. Some claimed it was a mutant spider. Others believe it's a previously undocumented subterranean species drawn to heat. Authorities remain silent. Locals now whisper one warning: check your attic before it checks you. Number 15. The Chinese giant salamander. The endangered Chinese giant salamander is the world's largest living amphibian. Actually, there are 3 distinct species of these salamanders. The Chinese, then there was the Japanese giant salamander, and finally the North American hellbender, which wins the prize for having the best name for sure. The Chinese giant salamander is the largest of these creatures, and it can grow to lengths of up to 6 feet and can live as long as humans can, and perhaps well beyond. They're found mainly in Rocky Mountains, rivers, and China. And that's where they eat a diet of delicious fish, frogs, insects, and shellfish, along with the occasional small salamander. Such is life when you're at the top of the food chain, These unusual creatures live their entire lives underwater, but they don't actually have gills. Instead, they breathe by absorbing oxygen through their porous skin, which is a pretty clever adaptation. Their skin is also the source of their ability to sense their prey in the water around them. They don't have the best eyesight, so they actually rely on these sensory nodes that they can have from their head to their tail. The nodes can feel vibrations in the water, which means that they don't need light in order to hunt for their prey, and they're especially active during the night. Although there are initiatives in place to try and boost the populations of this ancient animal, their numbers do still remain endangered, and there is still a long way to go in protecting them in their wild habitat in the mountains of China. Number 14. New species of saw sharks. The 6-gill saw shark is a super weird deep-sea dwelling sea creature that has a saw-like snout that is full of sharp teeth. Recently, 2 new species of the elusive creatures were identified in the western Indian Ocean. Kaya's 6-gill saw shark was found off of Madagascar, and Anna's 6-gill saw shark was spotted near Tanzania. These discoveries expand our understanding of saw sharks, and the total known species of the creatures now numbers just 10. 6-gill saw sharks are especially interesting for their evolutionary adaptations. Unlike their 5-gill compatriots, these sharks have an additional gill slit, and so they are unique within their own group. Their long and serrated rostrum is not only for show, it's actually a weapon that they use to slash and capture prey like small fish and squid. There are also sensory barbels on that rostrum, which can help them to detect movement in the dark and murky depths in which they live, helping them to be efficient hunters in the trickiest of conditions. Number 13. The new blobfish. Oh, look at these guys. With a face like Mr. Magoo or a piece of rude graffiti, the poor old blobfish gets a whole bunch of abuse. Declared by some to be the ugliest animal in the world, the blobfish is kind of fascinating. Their features can be eerily human, but usually in a comical way, like a grumpy-faced old cartoon grandpa rather than that of a spooky human face that you sometimes see other animals sporting. The blobfish has a big gelatinous head with huge lips and small eyes, and often a particularly displeased expression. You'd probably look a bit gross if people kept making jokes about your face as well. These unfortunate fish belong to a family of sea creatures, which is usually known by the more common name of fathead sculpin. These guys, well, they just can't catch a break. The blobfish is perfectly adapted to where it lives. Its gelatinous appearance is the result of having very few bones. Living at depths of 2,000 feet, the pressure down there would crush other types of bodies, so the blobfish's wobbly body doesn't seem so silly after all now, does it? Number 12. The Goblin Shark. The deep-sea-dwelling Goblin Shark is like a nightmare combination of frightening alien face and squashed dinosaur shark. It's actually rather horrific. However, I shouldn't judge something on its appearance. I know that's not fair, but are these guys as scary as they look? Well, let's find out. With a long snout on the top and a set of very sharp teeth on the bottom, this shark seems equipped enough to do some predatory stuff. It has a weird technique for catching its prey. The goblin shark can eject its jaws and then send out a dangerous snapping motion to grab a passing prey, and will simply reel its jaws back in and scoff up the catch. Ooh, spooky. This long-nosed shark is actually, and mercifully, much lazier than many of the other sharks. Its sluggish behavior means that it's not likely to expend a whole lot of energy in a high-speed pursuit. And given one look at this freaky fish, no doubt you'll be able to outswim it just based on fear alone. I'm glad that one's finished. These guys give me the creeps. Number 11. The hell ant. These ants are extinct, so that's a bit of a relief to be fair. Hell ants come from all the way back in the Cretaceous period, which was around about 99 million years ago. These are another species that has been found preserved in amber fossils, and this sticky stuff also managed to capture the exact moment that a hell ant caught its prey. These ants had a really weird mechanism for capturing their prey. They had a couple of tusk-like mandibles that can move vertically, which is different from the horizontal action of modern ants' jaws. This particular adaptation allowed these ants to trap prey against the specialized horn-like protrusions on their heads. Their mandibles and horns varied greatly among species, and some were even equipped with serrated teeth. Despite their success for nearly 20 million years, they eventually went extinct, and this was most likely due to competition with some sort of more versatile modern ant species that emerged much later in evolutionary history. Number 10. The Myanmar snub-nosed monkey. The Myanmar snub-nosed monkey was discovered back in 2010 in Myanmar, of all places. This is a super rare and critically endangered primate which lives only in the forests of the eastern Himalayas. Now, of course, its main feature is its unique upturned nose. The strange shape actually causes it to sneeze when it rains. These monkeys prefer hanging out in old-growth forests and inhabiting altitudes that range from 2,600 to 3,100 meters, but they also move down to lower elevations during the winter in order to escape from the snow. As is typical with the modern world, there are a lot of threats to the existence of these monkeys, which include deforestation, hunting, which is usually by accident, as the traps are often set for other animals but capture the monkeys instead, and, of course, the endless and cruel illegal wildlife trade. When this is added to the political instability in Myanmar, the efforts to protect the species along with its habitat are made even more difficult. There are some local conservation groups and the extension of education to communities in order to attempt to protect this really rare monkey before it ends up being too late. Number 9. The domed land snail. Next up, we have the teeny-weeny little domed land snail. This species is a cave-dwelling and air-breathing sort of creature that is extraordinarily slow-moving and is found in the Lucina Jama Troima cave systems of Croatia. These tiny snails were only then formally named as a new species in 2013. After their discovery and official making stuff was complete, the diminutive creature was given the celebrated title of one of the top 10 new species of 2014, which I am certain it was extremely happy about, as snails are famously competitive, you know. As well as being extremely small, these snails are also kind of unusual looking. They have no eyeballs and their shells are completely transparent. For this reason, people think they are ghost-like, but to be honest, they live about 900 meters below the surface of the earth in complete darkness, so eyes are not actually important, and being see-through seems to be wholly appropriate. As they get older, the shells of more mature snails will tend to become more beige and a kind of milky color, but still ghosty enough to warrant their spooky reputation. Number 8. Ghost shark. These sharks go by so many different names it's hard to keep up. But invariably, they are known as chimeras or ratfish or spookfish or rabbitfish or, as we're calling them today, ghost sharks. Although known as sharks, they are only vaguely related to sharks and rays. Ghost sharks last had common ancestors with these creatures about 400 million years ago. These days, they live in deep water about a mile beneath the surface and are not often seen. They glide so silently and are so strange that people have imagined them as phantoms, which is why they are occasionally known as a ghost shark. It also makes them sound kinda cool too, don't you think? Anyways, the ghost shark was not actually officially named and classified until 2002 after a whole bunch of their dead bodies were hauled in by fishermen by accident. Then, in 2007, a group of scientists finally managed to capture footage of a living ghost shark swimming about off the coast of Central California. Number 7. The Kakita Titi monkey. Back in 2011, a naturist was out in the Amazon rainforest of southern Brazil when he came across a type of Titi monkey that he didn't recognize. Now, indeed, it was not only this guy that had not seen it before. Scientists had never actually recorded monkeys that were quite like this species. These are Titi monkeys with a reddish-orange tail, and he said were like a blaze with a light gray stripe on their foreheads and sideburns in an ochre color. These monkeys were discovered to be distinct from others that were similar, and they were thus named Milton's Titi monkey, or the fire-tailed Titi monkey. There are more than 30 species of this monkey that live in the rainforests of South America, and now there is one more to add to that list. How many more creatures are as yet undiscovered by science? Number 6. The purple frog. Well, this one is an odd-looking frog. The purple frog is not so much purple as it is a kind of weird and fleshy wet potato. That is certainly not something you want popping up during your slumber, that's for sure. Also known as the pig-nosed frog, this chubby burrowing creature is not really like any other kind of frog out there in the world. When it does emerge, it's usually just for a couple of days each year, right at the start of the monsoon season to find a mate. Its call is a bizarre, almost cartoonish honk that echoes through the rain-soaked forests, making it sound more like a squeaky toy than a living animal. Scientists were stunned when they first discovered it, since its closest relatives split off from other frogs over 100 million years ago, back when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. Its stubby limbs and pointed snout make it look like it was designed by someone who'd never actually seen a frog before. It's apparently evolved independently in a very specific region of India, where it's rarely seen since it spends most of its entire life underground. These frogs have developed a special adaptation which helps their kind to survive in the stormy and flood-ravaged areas in which they live. Their tadpoles have a special sucker mouth part that they use to cling onto the rocks where they get their food rather than being easily washed away. This resilience against storms has imbued the purple frog with a kind of mystical property. Unfortunately for that frog, it also means that local people love to take them and turn them into amulets, which children wear to help alleviate their fear of storms. It just sucks to be a purple frog, really. You spend your entire life hiding underground, only to poke your pig nosed above the surface one time and then you get turned into jewelry. The indignity of it all, you know? Number 5. Goodman's mouse lemur. So, this mouse lemur is a new species of these tiny little primates in the whole wide world. These cute diminutive creatures are more easily spotted by scientists in the forests of Madagascar if they look for their eyes gleaming in the dark. They have eyes that are extremely large in relation to their minuscule bodies, and the creatures are no bigger than a fist and weigh less than a tennis ball. If you ever saw one up close, you'd probably think it was a wind-up toy brought to life, with its twitchy nose and impossibly quick movements. They can leap incredible distances between branches, almost like tiny acrobats performing in the moonlight. Sometimes, they'll freeze completely still, blending into the shadows and making themselves nearly invisible to predators. Their diet is a mix of fruit, insects, and even a bit of tree sap, which they lap up with their tiny tongues. They are also very shy, hence the reason that they have remained undiscovered for so long. And being nocturnal, you can't try and spot them in the day because they're off somewhere else sleeping. Unfortunately for this pint-sized primate, it may already be endangered. While it was probably better off before people even knew it existed, to be honest, but that's a situation rather like trying to put the toothpaste back into the tube. Anyway, the tiny creatures hail from Madagascar and have been given the official name of Microcebus yonahi, after a famous primatologist who had dedicated their life to Madagascar's lemurs and protection in studying them as well. There are actually 107 known species of the lemur, and almost all of them are at risk of extinction. These mouse lemurs are found only on Madagascar, where the forests are under constant threat and are sadly, rapidly disappearing. Number 4. The Eastern Santa Cruz tortoise. This is the newly discovered Eastern Santa Cruz tortoise. It was formally identified in 2015 when scientists realized that it was actually distinct from the Western Santa Cruz tortoise. Both of these species are of the Galapagos giant tortoises. The Latin name of these lovely tortoises is Blububibabu, and they were named in honor of Fausto Larena Sanchez, who was a legendary park ranger that spent over 40 years protecting Galapagos tortoises. The species is actually a significant conservation success story. What's really cool is that these tortoises can live for over a century, making them true witnesses to the changing landscape of the Galapagos. Their shells are slightly more domed and their coloring a bit lighter than their Western relatives, which helps researchers tell them apart in the wild. Sometimes, you'll spot them lumbering through the misty highlands, munching on cacti and wild grasses like slow-moving tanks. Even though they look ancient and unhurried, they're surprisingly resilient, having survived volcanic eruptions and centuries of human impact. Don Fausto played a hugely important role in developing captive breeding programs which restored critically endangered tortoise populations, and that included the world-famous lonesome Georgia species. His methods ended up becoming a model for global conservation efforts all around. The eastern Santa Cruz tortoise lives in isolated pockets of Santa Cruz Island's eastern highlands, and unlike their western counterparts, they have genetic and ecological differences, which warrant species distinction and shows the complexity of Galapagos' ecosystem that was once shaped by volcanic activity and geographic isolation. Number 3. Varanus Batawa. This next creature is a massive monitor lizard that lives in the forests of the northern Sierra Madre on the coast of Luzon in the Philippines. At the moment, this is the only place on the entire planet that the species is known to exist. These large lizards can grow as big as 6 feet and 7 inches in length and can weigh as much as 33 pounds. They have a blackish-blue coloring with yellowish-green dots. The tail, however, is a stripy black and green, rather a snazzy outfit for a monitor lizard, I would think. What's even more fascinating is that they're expert climbers, often spotted high up in the trees, searching for their favorite fruits. Locals sometimes call them tree dragons because of their impressive size and almost mythical appearance. Despite their bulk, they can move surprisingly fast when startled, vanishing into the dense foliage in seconds. Scientists were amazed when they first discovered this species, as it had managed to stay hidden for so long in such a well-studied region. Unlike many other monitor lizards, this one is not a meat eater. It's actually a fruit eater. These are one of the only 3 known species of the frugivorous monitor lizards, and they mainly eat fruit of the pandan palm tree and the canarium tree. This means that these monitor lizards play an important role in the ecosystem of their habitats as they are busy eating away at the fruits and pooping out all kinds of seeds, and thus ensuring the survival of these particular trees by their seed dispersal method. When pushed, these lizards will add a few insects to their diet, so they're not a strict fruit eater, but they won't be hunting down any larger creatures anytime soon. Number 2. A deep sea blob. These unusual creatures are comb jellies, or ctenophores. They have given scientists a special insight into the evolutionary pathway of other animals, including humans. It's weird, but this strange species is slightly related to human beings. These comb jellies can help researchers to study the evolution of neural development and neural pathways. They don't have a brain, but their nerve cells are connected together through all their body like a web, and although they may look like a jellyfish, they're not actually related. What's really wild is that they move using rows of tiny, hair-like structures called cilia, which shimmer with rainbow colors as they swim. Some species can even produce their own light, glowing eerily in the dark depths like something out of a fantasy novel. If you ever spot one, it almost looks like a living, floating crystal chandelier. Despite their delicate appearance, they're actually fierce predators, gobbling up plankton and even other comb jellies. These 2 different species have taken extremely different evolutionary paths. There's a weird phenomenon happening with these comb jellies at the present, whereas climate change is causing many of the species trouble with surviving, and these things just seem to be thriving and can cause huge blooms in some spaces. This then makes these creatures dominant in an area, and they will rapidly kill off other diverse organisms. These things could soon be taking over our oceans. Number 1. The vampire squid. The vampire squid is, despite its name, apparently neither a squid nor an octopus. Presumably, it's not even actually a vampire, but we should probably just make sure. The vampire squid is a kind of small cephalopod. They live in tropical and temperate waters around the world at a depth of between 2,000 and 3,000 feet at temperatures of about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. Ooh, that's cold. That's between 35.5 and 37.5 degrees Fahrenheit. These unique animals are completely different from other species and are, regrettably, considered to be endangered on the account of the pollution and destruction of their habitats. If you ever saw one up close, you'd probably think it was designed by a special effects artist for a sci-fi movie. Its arms are lined with fleshy spines called cirri, which look like something out of a deep-sea nightmare. When threatened, it can turn itself inside out, flipping its cape-like web over its body in a dramatic display. Some scientists have even called it a living fossil, because it's barely changed in millions of years. So you could probably see why they're called vampire squid. They're black or red in color and have weird web skin that has the appearance of a vampire cape, and they also have some extremely spooky red eyes. But they don't change their body color or release ink when threatened like other squid do. They excrete a glowing, sticky mucus that acts in a similar way and confuses would-be predators. It doesn't seem as though they go around sucking blood, though, and they're not plagued by that pesky affliction of immortality. That wraps up our journey through the strange and fascinating world of newly discovered species for today. Which of these creatures gave you the biggest chills? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the other awesome videos popping up on your screen. I'll catch you next time.